We've got a
It's all right. I won't tell them.
full agenda tonight. We have our public comments we'll start with, and we're going to have a CIP presentation and discussion following that. We're going to have another presentation on the financial conditions of the city, and then we'll have the election of officers for the Budget Committee. And then we'll conclude the evening. I would like to welcome our new members, Alicia, Ryan, and Ty. If you'd take a moment and introduce yourself to the table here, I'd appreciate that.
I'm Ty Purse Zimmerman.
Betty Taylor.
Alicia Voorhees.
Chris Pryor.
Eliza Kaczynski.
I'm still Mike Clark.
Scott Nowicki.
John Jasper.
Lucy Vennis.
Jennifer Yeh.
Emily Semple.
John Reese.
Christy Hammett.
Thank you. And welcome to our new members. So we'll now begin the public comments on the draft fiscal year 2025 capital improvement program. Those wishing to speak must have submitted a completed request to speak form to staff at the room entrance prior to the beginning of the public comment period. Please preface your statement with your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the timer. The yellow light indicates that you have 30 seconds remaining, and a sound will indicate the end of the 3 minutes. Our speaker that we have today is, I'm sorry, Linda. I can't read the last name. Is it Hagel?
Heil.
Heil. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Heil, and I live in Ward 2. And on behalf of 350 Eugene, I would like to say thank you to the Budget Committee, and thank you to Mr. Reese, and thank you to city staff for the 2025 draft CIP. In sharp contrast to the prior CIP, this version addresses climate considerations in useful and significant ways. Many actions to reduce emissions have been carried out over the past years, but without a way to fit these pieces into a whole, the cumulative impact can never be known. This report provides the needed baseline from which to measure emissions related to the capital improvements, about 20,000 metric tons of CO2. So the report achieves the first of the committee's 3 goals, providing metrics. Thank you again for this very good work. Next steps are tackling your other 2 goals, tracking projects that help meet CRO goals and modifying the CIP to prioritize projects that help meet the CRO goals. This draft also reframes how departments approach their planning, placing emissions reductions front and center. And it provides information useful to the public for understanding the dizzying, kaleidoscopic interplay of factors in our current energy-intensive lifestyles. For example, we can add the emissions from constant resurfacing of roads and runways to our public awareness of the carbon costs of a lifestyle centered on private cars. More biking, walking, and taking the bus would cut down on the need for resurfacing roads. In fact, from an emissions perspective, the CIP is essentially a report about paving. Focus in here for more carbon savings. The city is already using warm mix asphalt. Is it used routinely whenever possible? Innovations, of course, are coming. Road materials that absorb carbon, that are porous, so as to allow water through into the ground, avoiding runoff through storm sewers, and eventually, perhaps, roadways that charge electric vehicles as they drive, as are being piloted now in Germany and Italy. Project-specific metrics allow staff to focus on how to lower emissions in the near term by turning attention to the projects that will be first out of the gate. Yes, plan to replace the HVAC equipment that uses R22 refrigerants and the library lights for in this year's budget. The report also looks ahead to mid and longer term planning. Yes, make a plan for net zero building for the Concourse C at the airport. Yes, initiate a public-private partnership to install those solar panels at the airport. Encourage staff to propose more future opportunities to reduce emissions like these. The metrics included in the draft CIP are a solid starting place. This report will support a shift in thinking to prioritize emission reductions at all levels of planning and in a comprehensive way so that carbon savings are at the core of every planning decision. And thank you once again.
Thank you. This is the last public comment we have, just the one tonight. So moving through our agenda, just want to remind everyone that this session is being recorded and will be available for webcast as well, especially for our new members if you're not familiar with that. So please speak into the mic when you're when you have a question or a comment that you want to make. We'll begin now with our staff presentation on the CIP.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Strebe. I'm a senior analyst with the Finance Division, and I'll be taking you through the CIP tonight, along with Matt Rodriguez here, the city engineer, and Jeff Perry, the Facilities Division Manager on my right. We'll be happy to answer any questions after the presentation. First, I want to step back and go over what the CIP is, its purpose, and why we produce one. The CIP is essentially a multi-year capital planning document that serves as a roadmap for the city's capital projects for the next 6 fiscal years. The city helps achieve all the things you see here through producing a CIP. It identifies capital needs, prioritizes spending requests, focuses on organizational goals, builds consensus and awareness in the community, and ensures financial stability by aligning projects with anticipated funding levels over a 6-year planning period. Because capital projects are resource intensive and require a lot of planning to complete, developing a multi-year plan like our CIP is recognized as a best practice and a recommended tool for local governments. The CIP is not produced in a vacuum, however. There are a number of factors that shape the projects in the capital spending plan. Most of them you'll see on the slide here. Prior plans and studies, which Matt and Jeff will highlight for each program area tonight. This includes master planning documents as well as citywide guides like Envision Eugene, the Downtown Plan, the Climate Recovery Ordinance, the 2021 World Championships, etc. Capital replacement programs, those support projects that upgrade existing assets and expand functionality or enhance service levels. Maintenance monitoring programs, this is things like the facility condition report, the wastewater monitoring program, the pavement preservation program. The community's values and public participation processes filter through to the CIP through community surveys, elections, input from neighborhood associations. The funding restrictions and diversity of services that are included are also things that shape what ends in the CIP. And finally, council-specific goals like community livability are reflected in CIP projects, including those like the permanent farmers market, the park plaza, the downtown riverfront project as well. The diagram here shows the basic process by which a project goes from an idea to construction and use. Once a need is identified, then more detailed plans are made to align the project with available funds. Once funding and project plans are in place, the CIP is developed and presented to the Budget Committee. The role of the Budget Committee in this process is to review the CIP prior to council adoption. This provides a feedback mechanism through comments from the public at large, as well as from the citizen members of the Budget Committee prior to going to council. Once council approves the CIP, capital projects become part of the city manager's proposed budget in the spring, which must receive appropriation authority through the budget process as well. The first 2 years of the CIP, FY20 and FY21, form the basis of the capital budget in those years. Once appropriations are made, a whole range of project planning and implementation activities then occur, including engineering and design, procurement, contracting, coordination with partners, inspection, etc. Okay, well, with this CIP, we've incorporated 3 big changes compared to previous iterations. We've included greenhouse gas emissions estimates for CIP projects. This is a new initiative that was made in response to a Budget Committee motion passed in 2017. This is the city's first attempt at producing this type of information on a wide scale, and we expect those efforts to continue to evolve in the future, along with the other climate recovery work that's happening in other areas of the city. In addition to GHG estimates, we've produced additional narrative to highlight the different climate efforts that are happening across program areas. This provides more context to the GHG data that's in there. And finally, changes have been made to provide more information on specific capital projects within the ongoing capital programs. You may have noticed there's a lot more projects in this CIP. That's because the first 2 years, individual capital projects have detailed financial information in individual project pages. This builds on efforts to increase financial transparency that we're making through other tools like the Open Budget website. So all the FY20 projects will be part of the Open Budget website and we'll have mappable information and you can drill down on the projects. The GHG findings from the CIP also align closely with the source of emissions community-wide, which are shown here. The CIP estimates indicate that our largest source of emissions is paving projects due to the large quantity of resources required for construction. With our buildings and facilities, there are several planned projects that will realize some energy efficiency gains and reduce emissions from ongoing operations. However, as part of the Parks Bond, there are plans to expand the footprint of some of our rec centers and pools, and that will likely increase energy usage on an ongoing basis. Finally, the CIP includes a number of multimodal projects that have the potential to reduce emissions community-wide by promoting safe, efficient options for bike and pedestrian travel. Here's a financial breakdown of the CIP by program area. This represents total spending for the next 6 fiscal years, which is projected to be nearly $313 million. Transportation is the largest component at $92 million, followed by airport at $83 million, parks and open space, facilities, wastewater, and stormwater. The vast majority of proposed spending, with the exception of projects funded by the Parks and Rec Bond, is dedicated to maintain our existing infrastructure, essentially taking care of what we've already built. This is less costly over the long term than letting things fall into disrepair. I don't expect you to absorb everything on this chart here, but it does show the CIP funding comes from a wide variety of sources. The vast majority of these sources are restricted for particular use according to local, federal, or state laws. The exception is funding from the general fund, which is used primarily for our public buildings and facilities. These don't qualify for designated uses from other sources. General capital projects funding, which is shown in the bottom right here in purple, accounts for about 8% of total spending in the CIP. Now I'll turn it over to Matt to talk about the projects in Public Works.
Thank you. So good evening, Mayor, Councilors, and Budget Committee members. As Mike said, I'm Matt Rodriguez. I'm the City Engineer, and I'm going to talk about the 5 program areas in the CIP that relate to Public Works, which is the airport, parks and open space, stormwater, transportation, and wastewater. The flow of the presentation will be, I'll talk a little bit about each program area, the specific guides that inform our investments, the funding sources, and example projects and programs. And then briefly, we talk about specific guides for each area, but there are 3 that really have a large nexus to everything we do, and that's the Climate Recovery Ordinance, Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan, and Envision Eugene. So the airport. I got out of sequence. The Eugene Airport is a vital link in our region for commercial air service, air cargo operations, and general aviation. In 2018, the airport had approximately 1.1 million total passengers and approximately 1.2 million pounds of cargo emplaned. That's just over an 8% increase in the number of passengers and 4% increase in the number of cargo that we had from 2017. To support these operations, the focus of the Eugene Airport for the immediate future will be economic development, customer service improvements, and the preservation and maintenance of existing assets, primarily airfield pavements. Projects in the CIP include functional and safety improvements, including landside egress and ingress, rental car facilities and airfield geometry corrections, preservation and maintenance of runways and taxiway pavements, and an airport terminal planning study in addition to terminal building Concourse C. This slide shows the specific guides for investments in the airport. Eugene Airport's capital projects receive the majority of their funding from Federal Aviation Administration grants, passenger facility charges, and customer facility charges. The balance of funding labeled airport construction comes from municipal airport funds, which are derived from parking fees, terminal rents, and other operations, and that funding is typically used to match FAA grants. This is an example of a recent airport CIP project. It's the airport terminal building, which underwent a $19 million renovation and expansion in 2017. The project relocated and expanded the security screening checkpoint, created new B-gate hold room, installed 2 new baggage claim carousels, and replaced aging elevators and escalators. The funding was a combination of passenger facility charges, FAA funds, and airport construction funds. This project significantly improved the customer experience by providing more efficient space for TSA passenger screening, enhanced ADA accessibility, and in general made the airport a more welcoming place. So moving to Parks and Open Space. Parks and Open Space owns and stewards over 5,000 acres of land, approximately 3,500 acres of which are in natural park areas. These parks are managed to maximize ecosystem benefits while meeting public use, habitat, and other needs. This connected system of natural areas, developed parks, and vegetated stormwater facilities and urban forest support natural processes that improve air and water quality, sequester carbon, and provide recreation and renewal opportunities for our community. Projects in the CIP include renovation and rehabilitation of parks, renovation and expansion of park systems such as lighting and irrigation, land acquisition and habitat restoration, and development of new parks. This is a list of the specific guides for investments in parks and open space. Park system development charges are the primary ongoing capital funding source for parks and open space acquisitions and improvements. With the passage of the 2018 Parks and Recreation Bond, significant additional funding is programmed in the CIP over the next 5 years. A limited amount of capital funding from the city's general fund is available for rehabilitation and renovation of existing assets, and some unfunded future system needs include trail development, neighborhood park upgrades, and development of additional water play features. This slide is of the Amazon Playground, which was renovated in 2018. The popularity of this community park playground, along with its roots in providing accessible play for all, made for an opportunity to go beyond standard ADA requirements and build a modern, fully inclusive playground. Funding was pooled from a variety of sources, including federal and state grants, donations sponsored by the Eugene's Park Foundation, Parks SDCs, and dedicated accessibility funding. And this is a good example of a renovation of a regional park. This is the Delta Ponds Interpretive Trail. We have a project here to build a bridge that will complete the 1.5-mile loop, a very popular area. The bridge will span Diedrich Slough and will be funded with a combination of 2018 Parks and Rec Bond and Parks SDCs. The Downtown Riverfront Park is slated for completion by 2021 and will be the first new park constructed in Eugene in 10 years. A thorough community engagement process is still underway and has already engaged and sparked the imagination of thousands of residents. A number of funding sources are coming together to make this park a reality, including parks and transportation SDCs, 2018 Parks and Recreation Bond funds, and pedestrian and bicycle funds from the 2017 Street Bond. Stormwater program. So the city's stormwater capital improvement projects focus on improving water quality, increasing resilience through flood control, preservation and rehabilitation of the existing pipe system, and enhancing and restoring natural systems. Stormwater projects in the CIP include wetland mitigation bank capital projects, rehabilitation and improvement projects such as stream restoration, dry well elimination, system rehabilitation, and water quality facilities, and upgrades and capacity enhancement projects. And these are the specific guides for investments in stormwater. Major funding sources include stormwater utility fees and stormwater system development charges. The 2018 Parks and Rec Bond has funding in the CIP under stormwater for restoration of the Amazon Creek between 19th and 24th avenues. And Wetlands Mitigation Bank funds support improvement and expansion of those facilities. In this photo on the left, we have Amazon Creek from 19th to 24th as it exists now on the left-hand side. So it's a concrete channel On the right is a segment of Amazon Creek between Garfield and Chambers that we renovated a few years ago. We have a project in the CIP basically to make that concrete line channel section look a lot more like the renovated section on the right. So that's removing the concrete, gently sloping the banks, creating a low flow channel for improved water quality, floodplain areas for added capacity, native plants, wildlife habitat enhancement, and viewing areas from the path for recreational and educational benefits. And that project is funded for construction in fiscal year 21. You've probably seen quite a few green stormwater facilities around town, so this is something that we're continuing to install to improve water quality. These facilities filter runoff, infiltrate water into the soil, and slow the flow of water into receiving waterways, reducing peak flows and stream erosion. So this is an ongoing program with several vegetated planters being constructed annually, typically along our busier streets. So replacement, repair, and upgrade of old stormwater piping systems. This is an ongoing program with annual projects that repair systems under streets prior to repaving. So we have a nexus of trying to make sure that all of our underground project work is done before we pave, and stormwater is part of that. These projects also improve capacity and eliminate street flooding problems as funding allows. Transportation. So the transportation system provides mobility and accessibility for people and movement of goods within the city and region. The city strives to provide a safe, smart, resilient, and sustainable transportation system through multimodal planning and project implementation, innovative construction techniques, and modernizing our traffic signal system technology and operations. Projects in the CIP include a significant investment in preservation of our streets, improvements to transportation safety, seismic upgrades of bridges to increase resilience, active transportation projects and multimodal improvements to streets, and updating our traffic signal system technology. These are the guides for investment in transportation projects. The majority of transportation funding programmed in the CIP is dedicated to pavement preservation and includes funds from the 2017 street bond, local gas tax revenue and reimbursement component of transportation SDCs. The stormwater and wastewater funds shown here are to fund that work to repair our underground systems prior to paving, and we also closely coordinate with UWEB, Northwest Natural Gas, and other utilities before we pave. Active transportation and multimodal projects are funded by a mix of federal funds, road fund general capital, our 2017 street bond, and transportation SDCs. State gas taxes are primarily focused on funding safety and operational changes and technology upgrades to signal systems. And lastly, seismic bridge resilience projects included in the CIP are funded with federal funds and a local match of transportation SDCs. So this slide shows West Amazon Drive. We reconstructed it this last summer, and we used a process called in-place cement treated base. And basically what that process does is you remove the existing asphalt, you take that back to one of the processing plants so it can be recycled into new asphalt material, and then you bring a large machine called a reclaimer, which you can see in the upper left-hand photo. It's basically a large rototiller, and it comes in and mixes the subgrade soil, the existing aggregate base, we add cement and water, and it creates this very stable cement-treated platform we can come back and pave on. So that eliminates all the truck trips of removing the old material, the truck trips from bringing new rock onto the project. And instead of using 100% Portland cement, which is very greenhouse gas intensive, we basically use 50% Portland cement and 50% slag cement, which is a byproduct of the steel industry and basically has very low emissions associated with it. So we also reduce emissions from the reconstruction, and it's a faster way to get a project done. On the lower right-hand photo, you can see what the finished product looks like. We also added some, multimodal enhancements on this project and safety improvements. We striped all the crosswalk legs at Fox Hollow and West Amazon and buffered the bike lane to get more space between people driving and people using bikes. This project, or this slide shows in the upper left-hand corner a project to repave West 7th Place. In the lower right, it shows work that we did on North Park Avenue. In that lower right-hand slide, we used pedestrian and bicycle portion of our street bond funds to do sidewalk infill and put a safe pedestrian crossing in near Howard Elementary. On West 7th Place, we changed the way that street works. It was 2 lanes eastbound, 1 lane westbound. We were able to change that to 1 lane in each direction, a center turn lane, and bike lanes. That typically reduces crashes by about 30%. We didn't need the capacity for cars there. It actually works well, and we were able to add bike facilities on this, also using pedestrian and bicycle funds from the street bond. This slide shows Jessen Path, which was constructed this last summer as well. And this is an example of where we go out to get federal funds to assist in a large active transportation project. It was a $2.1 million project. It basically connects the Beltline path to communities in the west in the Bethel area, and will be a great amenity to that area of town. So finally, for me, the wastewater program. So the wastewater program is predominantly focused on rehabilitation of existing assets to address structural issues and reduce inflow and infiltration of stormwater and groundwater into the wastewater system. Reducing the amount of water the treatment plant needs to clean has a direct effect on energy use at the plant and of the pump stations that we have in our system, and retains the capacity of the system for future development and redevelopment. So projects in the CIP include those rehabilitation projects for the pipe system, and also reconstruction of the West Irwin pump station, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second, as well as construction of new capital facilities. This slide shows the specific guides for investments in wastewater, but it's hard to make out, but it also shows basically a map of our updated wastewater model. So we've invested a large amount of time in the last 2 years in updating a model that accurately represents our system. This helps us in combination with flow monitoring and manholes to figure out where we're getting the most inflow and infiltration of stormwater and groundwater, and where we can make data-driven decisions about how we go in and do our work. So we're really pleased to have this model built out, and I've seen some good results in using it as a guide for investment. The primary funding sources for wastewater are utility fees and stormwater SDCs, and again, the focus is really rehabilitating the system. So we use a suite of trenchless technologies to do our pipe rehabilitation, and the one we rely on most is relining of existing pipes. So we basically take a resin impregnated liner, it's injected into the pipe, we put steam through it, it cures in place. That's what you see in the bottom right is the finished product. So you have a watertight new plastic pipe that's created within the existing system. And then we do work on the manholes on each end to help seal those out, and then continue down the system to make it watertight. This slide shows the West Irwin pump station. So this was built in the 60s. It serves over 3,000 acres in Eugene. It is seismically vulnerable. It's also a hazard to workers because of the way it's designed. So this is a priority for replacement in this CIP. Now I'll hand it over to Jeff to talk about public buildings and facilities.
Thanks, Matt. All right, I'll be telling you about public buildings and related capital projects and initiatives the Facility Management Division is responsible for. The city maintains a diverse number of public facilities, including community centers, swimming pools, fire stations, parking structures, government office buildings, park facilities, the Holt Center, and the Eugene Library. In all, the city maintains and preserves more than 100 general fund buildings totaling almost 1 million square feet. The city also provides new and/or expanded facilities to meet the needs of the growing community. Public buildings and facilities projects are derived from several adopted plans and facility condition reports. Examples include the Parks and Rec System Plan, the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan, the 2017 Facility Condition Report, the Public Works Facilities Master Plan Update, Urban Renewal Plans, and the Parking Structure Condition Analysis. Capital improvement dollars for general fund public facilities are allocated through the following project categories. Facility preservation and maintenance. These projects preserve, maintain, and repair systems associated with existing facilities. This category is divided into 4 preservation and maintenance program areas. That includes health, safety, and welfare, primary building systems, secondary building systems, and building service systems. Examples of projects in this category include roofing and siding replacement, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing repairs, interior finishes, fire suppression systems, and building controls. It's important to note that individual facility preservation and maintenance projects often include funding from multiple program areas. Site and facility improvements. Projects in this category include modifications and/or additions to existing facilities to meet operational, safety, and cost efficiency goals, and to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The primary goal of this program is to address changing program functions and needs and/or to improve service delivery. These types of projects have a limited impact on facility operating costs, as their purpose is to upgrade or reconfigure space for more efficient service delivery. This category is organized into 2 program areas. That's general site facility improvement, we call B1 program, and then ADA renovations. And then finally, new capital facilities. Projects in this category typically provide for either new and/or replacement of facilities, or are projects that expand existing facilities or services and are of such scale to warrant classifications as a standalone project. Large-scale facility changes that are needed to provide for community growth are found in this category of projects. Facility Management Division also assists with department-funded enhancement projects, such as the recently renovated kitchens at the Holt Center and Campbell Community Center, and Silva Theater rigging system that we worked on for the Lion King production. All right, the CIP includes $32 million allocated for the city's public buildings and structures. The majority of projects are funded with general fund capital project dollars, and almost a quarter of the total funding will come from the Parks and Rec system plan bond. $4.5 million from urban renewal dollars. Urban renewal agency funds have also been identified for improved farmers market, which is part of the downtown urban renewal plan amendments made by council. All right, next I'll talk about some projects that we've completed and some projects that we're working on. No surprise, there are several significant re-roofing projects budgeted for in the CIP. Here's a recent example of a roof replacement project for the Amazon Pool Bathhouse. Although the facility has been generally easy to maintain, the roofing project is complex due to the number of penetrations required for the solar hot water system and drainage issues related to the flat roof. Our teams actually called this the 4th pool at Amazon because of the amount of water. The Alton Baker Shelter and Fire Station 2 are also scheduled for replacement in 2020, and then the Facility Management Shop and Fire Logistics in 2021. The capital budget is also used for historic renovation projects. Some of the recent projects we've completed include replacement of the roof and renovation of the flooring at the McNeil Riley House, and window restoration and electrical upgrades at Sheldon McMurphy Johnson House. We're also currently working on a boiler heating system replacement at SMJ and foundation repairs at the Morse Family Farm. Later. Elevators in our parking garages in the library have been problematic and require major renovations and modernizations. In 2018, the library staff elevator was modernized and upgraded, with the remaining 3 lifts scheduled to be completed over the next several months. We're also planning to modernize the Holt Center lobby elevator in 2021. Utilizing parking funds, Facilities assisting parking services to modernize 5 lifts in the Holt Garage, Parkade, and Pearl Street Garage this year. We're also supporting parking as they move forward with several major deck coating projects over the next several years. CIP funds are used to improve building safety and security, both for the public and city staff. We recently completed an extensive cooling tower water treatment project that ensures water evaporation produced by the system is safe to the public. We're also scheduled to replace a deteriorating deck at the Lamb Cottage, and we're also there are also several security lighting, LED lighting upgrades budgeted for that will enhance building safety and reduce vandalism. Equity and contracting continues to be a focus for the Facility Management Division and CIP funds. We are tracking participation through solicitation documents, utilizing the State of Oregon's co-bid database, and participating in open houses and reverse trade shows. Additionally, we reclassified one of our positions in facilities to concentrate on contracting and procurement best practices, including equity and contracting. The Climate Recovery Ordinance is a high priority for the capital budget. In 2016, Solark Energy Group produced a report outlining several paths to meet CRO goals related to the operations of city buildings. Based on recommendations from the report, we are upgrading the HVAC system at the Police Property and Forensics Facility, which will switch the primary heating source from natural gas to electricity. The project not only improves performance and reduces energy use, but it virtually eliminates the use of natural gas and substantially decreases GHG emissions. All of our lighting projects include upgrading to LEDs. We've supported parking services to convert several parking garages to LED lighting, and we are working with the Eugene Library on an ongoing LED conversion project. Another critical project we are working on is the R22 refrigerant conversion in our HVAC systems, known to be harmful to the ozone and also no longer available by 2020. We are working on a phased approach that will completely eliminate use of the product. All right, one of the most exciting initiatives we're working on are the bond-funded recreation projects. The bond covers major renovations at Echo Hollow Pool, Campbell Community Center, and Sheldon Pool. We are currently in the public engagement, planning, and initial design stages for Echo Hollow, and Campbell, but are targeting this calendar year to start construction. All of the projects will include renovations to address deferred maintenance of the decades-old facilities and also add new amenities and features for the community. In addition to meeting a minimum LEED Silver certification, there are opportunities to further reduce energy use and operational GHG emissions on each project, which we're currently studying. Facilities leverages several different technologies to track the condition of our facilities and respond to routine work requests. Our operations and maintenance team recently implemented a new work order system that makes work requests and maintenance easier to schedule and more efficient for our technicians in the field. We also utilize a predictive modeling tool and database to track the condition of all general fund buildings and structures. The system also is a cost model, which allows us to project a 10-year financial investment. All right, a key indicator we track in our database is the Facility Condition Index, or FCI, to determine the building's overall condition. The lower the FCI, the better. And our goal is to maintain a good FCI rating of 15% or below. As you can see, the pie chart in the slide represents all general fund buildings, and slightly less than 2/3 have a good FCI, and about 1/3 rate as fair. A good example here is as we complete the bond-funded recreation facilities projects, we'll see that chart shift to a better overall FCI as those are completed. And then finally, this chart represents deficiencies by distress. And as you can see, almost 75% of our deficiencies are because a system is beyond its projected service life. The good news with that number is that due to proactive maintenance and preservation, we are able to significantly extend the useful life of many of these building systems that are technically beyond service life. But when we do that, it helps reduce long-term capital investment costs. All right, and I'll hand it back over to Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. I just want to give a brief reminder of process and timeline. Tonight, the Budget Committee will discuss and make a recommendation to Council on the CIP In March, the city council will hold another public hearing and take action on the CIP. And then the projects with FY20 funding will form the basis of the city manager's proposed capital budget, which he'll bring back to the budget committee in April. And to recap, the CIP follows best practices by aligning project spending with available funding over a multi-year period. The CIP links capital projects with other planning processes that are happening throughout the city. The projects are balanced across program areas to maintain fiscal integrity of all the funds that are involved. And the projects are primarily designed to maintain and upgrade our existing infrastructure that's in place. And that does it for us. We're happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you for this. Appreciate it. We'll follow our standard format and go around the table. We'll begin to the right. You have the option of making a comment, asking a question, or passing the time to the next person.
Thank you, sir, very much. I need our Public Works Director for a couple of questions, please. My friend Sarah.
Christy's been trying to get me in this chair.
We miss you at the table here all the time. So page 105, please. Can you please tell me what defines significantly Phase 1 of Stryker Field Park from other phases?
Yep, thanks for asking that. So we've been working with the neighborhood on Stryker Field for a number of years, as you know. And what we've been talking about doing there and what it's classified as currently is a neighborhood park. So in all of our planning documents, we have budgeted about $1 million for our neighborhood park development. What has come forth through this process is that the neighbors actually want a park that's more aligned with what a community park is. So it's kind of a neighborhood park with amenities that are far more expensive than $1 million. So what we have fully funded in the budget right now is $1 million for that piece. And as we work through the planning process, we'll be identifying ways to fund those additional amenities once we've confirmed what they are.
Fully funded, I caught that. That's awesome. In here it says 700 grand.
Yeah, I'm
Where's
not
the
sure
other three?
exactly why. I think it's because we may already have the 300 appropriated because it should be $1 million.
One of the things I notice is that in several other items in parks and are one of the funding sources listed is the 18 Park and Rec bond. Stryker Field was a major component of that bond sale to the people in North Eugene. How come none of the money from that is being used to fund this?
It's being adjusted. The way that the map went out to the voters, and if you look at it closely, it shows some of the projects we showed the suite of all the projects that were happening, and we talked about some would be done with bonds and some would be done with SDCs. So it'll probably be a mix of both.
I see it as listed for 2020. Is there a reason not to start it this year?
I don't believe it's ready. We've just started the planning process with the staff, so it'll take time to develop the construction documents and go out to bid, and it won't be ready.
And the way this lists, it'll be completed in 20, is that it?
It should be, yes.
Awesome. With the rest, thank you very much for that. With the rest of my time, I will say, I'm not going to burden everybody with this right now. Probably wait till it gets to council, because I don't know if I want to do it at this table. But in the middle of a housing crisis, we increased our transportation SDCs and what we charge to build new houses by 50%. And what that equates to in the CIP from the 6.5 million in transportation SDCs there would be trimming 2.2 million off of transportation projects in order to be able to keep our SDC cost for building new homes the same that it was last year. I just want to make sure I have an impulse to want to make motions to amend. I also want to say that out loud so that if there's anything close to a number of my colleagues who would want to do the same thing, that the manager has a chance to weigh in on that too. Maybe with the staff's recommendation instead of me just picking stuff and making motions. But I thought I'd throw it out there because I think it's important that we accepted a project list before we knew the cost. And now this is the part where we say, yep, we're going to spend all this money and collect all this money and make it more expensive to build houses. And I don't want to do it. So thank you.
So I was particularly looking at the funding gap for preservation, and I see that it's getting smaller, so that's good. What's sort of the strategy for getting that to be where it's not? Because as you said, repairing existing facilities is cheaper than building new facilities, and trying to make sure that we're not in that position where we're having to build new facilities or we're having facilities that are in very bad condition. So what's the kind of getting those to be the same?
You're talking about the chart that.
Yeah.
So it really just boils down to proactive preservation and maintenance. And so we've implemented some new systems, and we've been diligent about following that and trying to respond, pretty actively to reduce that number. The one thing about the chart too is that it's based on current value, and so it does move around a little bit based on current market value. So sometimes it'll go up, and that number shifts a little bit. And so it's there's still a gap, but it's we hold the line, and then with like the rec projects, some of our facilities, we have some that are in pretty rough shape, and so when we can do major renovations of those projects, it really shifts that number. So.
And then you mentioned that you had a tool that allowed you to project out the cost for buildings for 10 years. Is that for whatever building is currently in the inventory, or does that include new buildings?
It includes all general fund buildings, and then we added, this last fiscal year, we added the Roosevelt, the Public Works site at Roosevelt as well. Even though we call it the facility condition report, it's actually a database, and you basically just run a report out of it. So it's a dynamic database versus what we've done in the past, where it was kind of an annual report we would provide.
Okay. And then I think the next thing that I was kind of wondering is that in the future, especially, there aren't a ton of new projects in here, but understanding more the sort of long-term cost of maintaining new projects we're adding, because I know that, the funding is not ample. We don't have a bunch of extra money lying around. We're really having to talk about prioritization, which things we're doing first, new revenue sources. And so I feel like I'm looking at this, we're like, okay, this project costs, $1 million, but we're not really talking about what is it going to cost in 10 years. And so knowing how this impacts not just the capital budget, but the ongoing budget would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks. This is an impressive document. I like the way it's actually laid out. It's much more reader-friendly this go around. I had a couple questions, surprise, on the greenhouse gas emission summary. I very much appreciate all the work that's gone into doing this and developing this as part of the CIP. I know it's new, and this year was the first time you did it, and it's actually a difficult process, having done some of this before. And you did a good job of calculating a lot of the stuff. About almost half, 47% of the projects you were able to actually estimate greenhouse gas emissions. About 17% needed more information, and 12 were probably too small to calculate. And there was about 25% that were kind of in the category of didn't calculate because you didn't have enough information. Those, I suspect, as the details become more known, you'll be able to calculate those and be able to get those. So I guess the question I have is, after you've done all this, what did you guys learn? And and how did you use this information? And third, what changes occurred because you did this?
So, as you said, it was our first time putting this together, so there was a lot of learning that was done as we did that, and then there's a lot more that we expect to be able to provide in the next CIP as we learn a little bit more detail on what material emissions are for goods you can't commonly find those factors for, like, tennis court surfacing or something like that, where it's hard to really understand what the emissions outcome is. I think, one thing that we realized really putting that much effort into calculating, and I can speak to pavement preservation, is really getting and we've had a general understanding of, what our kind of low carbon intensity paving methods do for us. So warm mix asphalt, which lowers the production temperature of asphalt, which saves energy and greenhouse gas emissions, and then using high recycled content. But I think it really brought to light for us to continue to be aggressive on that and really push the boundary. So for instance, like I said, we've typically used 30% recycled content. Now we're trying to move that dial to 35% on all local streets, and even experimenting with 40%, which we've done, I think, once or twice so far, but really trying to push that locally, working with our contractors. So because it is such a large part of our emissions profile, even though the way we do it compared to most municipalities, we do it less intensively, it's still something to really focus on as far as the construction greenhouse gas emissions. The other thing that that we do realize is that the construction of the transportation system is not the major emission source from transportation. It's the way we use it. So one of the gaps that we have is we're able to do regional scenario planning, which is a tool that lets us say, if you want to increase the number of people that use bikes or increase the number of people that use transit, what is the outcome? So we can do that and figure out, what happens, and we presented that when we talk about the TSP implementation. The tools that are not developed yet and what we're trying to investigate are the tools that help us understand which investments, which projects actually move that dial. So there's that gap between, getting to that tripling or of bicycle modes or trying to have more transit usage, which we, heard about yesterday at the joint session with LTD. So we're looking at those modeling tools that help us make better informed decisions. So I think a lot of what we learned is where to look for more information to make better decisions in the future. As far as changes to what we prioritized in the CIP, I don't think that there's, and Jeff can speak to this, and maybe I'm wrong, but typically it's not just one thing, that leads us to determine what projects to select, but it's a number of objectives that come together for selection. So I think the climate recovery ordinance reinforces work that we were doing and helps us even prioritize with more significance some of the projects. So you'll notice there's a number of active transportation projects, again, in transportation. We know that while we're paving heavy in the CIP for transportation, and we know that's a good thing for maintaining our system, that really allows us to build a multimodal system. Every time we repave a street, it's clearing the canvas to decide what should be there to make a safe system, to provide better facilities for walking and biking. So, those overlap, right? The better facilities we can make, the safer facilities, the more we can give people options other than driving the car. For stormwater and wastewater, those programs are so focused, and really what we do in those programs meets the intention. I think there's some opportunity, for instance, in wastewater, just to be better data-led and to be more strategic in how we invest. But we know less water in is less water to treat at the treatment plant, less energy usage. So that has a strong correlation even within the way the existing system was defined. Stormwater, similarly, we're trying to naturalize systems. We're trying to put in water quality facilities, which, can help reduce urban heat island, plant trees. All those things have an effect on what our climate will be like.
Yeah, the overall goal of the motion was to have the CIP see how the CIP could help us meet our CRO goals of greenhouse gas reductions and by prioritizing projects that help us get there. And with that in mind, energy efficiency and reductions actually do that. There were only 4 out of the projects that showed an actual reduction in greenhouse gas, and all 4 were in the first year, so they were prioritized. So that was good. But I guess getting to where that you can use that tool, I often think of where we are in this kind of analysis to my work over the years in the energy conservation business. 30 years ago, when we were doing energy conservation, we thought we knew what we were doing, but when we look back, it was very rudimentary. It was very unsophisticated. We were gaining knowledge, gaining experience, and figuring stuff out as we went. And as we moved forward over the last couple of decades, we've gotten extremely sophisticated about it, and we understand it much better, and we're able to analyze it much better. I think where we are in the greenhouse gas emissions analysis is way back 30 years ago in that kind of analogy where we're trying to figure out how to do it and how to use it. I think that's good. I had a suggestion about the concrete, since Portland has cement named after them. The 30% recycled concrete should be called Eugene cement.
We'll work on that.
Thanks. Actually, Alan's comments, I think, get at what is, for me, the important part about reviewing this, and it's less looking at a specific project or a specific number than the degree to which all of this represents our policies and our goals and our priorities. Because I think a CIP needs to be a reflection of what we say is important. And I've been involved with organizations that, as a matter of policy, have said, defer maintenance, because we want to do more bells, whistles, breads, and circuses, and so that's what we're going to spend the money on. And what I'm pleased with, and this is something that you actually said, Mike, is we're taking care of what we've got. And I think that's an extremely important part of what any CIP or any set of priorities should be. And so I don't want to look at this and say, well, gee, I think you should have spent the money on this because it's closer to our priorities. A lot of this you're trying to do, but there are simply some projects in here where it's at the end of its useful life or it just simply needs to be fixed. And I think you're trying to juggle that delicate balance between those things that are just at an operational side. You just got to do them. That needs a new roof. I'm sorry, I can't tie this to a specific goal, but it needs a new roof. Whereas there's other things which you have actually pointed out and which kind of Alan was alluding to is there are things that are very much a reflection of some priorities and some goals that we've had. And so I think what I'm trying to say is this is a good balancing act in trying to cover all of those to the best you can. So it's really not in my interest to start going in and saying, well, I don't like this project, I like that project, or because it's, I alluded to in a previous budget meeting, it's like playing a game of Jenga, and if I start pulling pieces out, the whole thing can come down. So I'm trying to stay at this higher level and look at this document and say, are you meeting our goals? Is this what we intend for the city to prioritize and consider important? And I think to at least the degree I'm seeing so far, I'm pretty impressed with the degree to which you've provided that balance and have tried to incorporate some of those new and important outcomes and goals, such as climate recovery. And I'm impressed with the degree you've added that ball to the whole juggle, and I think that's pretty impressive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for putting this together. Alan actually addressed one of my concerns around greenhouse gas, so for efficiency's sake, that was much appreciated. The other question that I had was around using triple bottom line considerations for further prioritizing projects. I only saw in the parks and open space projects that was used, and I was curious if there was a reason why it wasn't used in selecting projects in the other areas.
I can speak to that. Pretty much our entire CIP is a huge triple bottom line analysis. I mean, genuinely, we look at the costs, we look at the social benefit, how it maybe a community center better serves the needs, to the patrons, and then the environmental impact, the CRO piece of it. So it's honestly, it's ingrained in how we evaluate those projects. That's how we approach it. So we didn't specifically maybe call it out, but it's in there, so.
Thank you. You mentioned walkability and doing things when it's convenient. And with the repaving of Willamette, undergrounding utilities would contribute to walkability because, as many residents have pointed out to me, it's hard to walk around all those utility poles that are in the middle of the sidewalk. Do you have any comments on that?
Well, I do agree that, moving utility poles out of sidewalks is definitely helpful to walkability. We are actually widening the sidewalks on Willamette Street to 9 feet or 9.5 feet, I forget which one, through the whole corridor. So the poles will be in what we call the furnishing zone. So they'll be closer to the curb, where we'll also have water quality facilities and other amenities. So the actual 5 clear feet in which you can walk will be behind all that and should be consistent. So even without undergrounding the utilities, it should be a much better walking experience on Willamette.
Does seem like a good opportunity to, while the paving is happening, to do the undergrounding. And then I have a question about Kesey Square. That is a part of our facilities, isn't it? Or is it?
Is it part of our facilities?
Yeah, it's owned by the city.
It is. It's not a
I was
building,
thinking
so, yeah.
maintenance and improvement of that space might be a part of the CIP. Does that make sense?
It does. It's currently not, but it does. We have made some improvements. We put in, we enhanced the electrical for the food carts 5-6 years ago, and so we've done some minor improvements, but nothing major.
I'm thinking of opening the walls.
What you might also remember is, as part of your urban renewal district, downtown urban renewal district projects, there was money set aside for civic plazas and spaces and parks downtown, and that includes the Town Square Parks blocks, Farmers Market, also includes Kesey Plaza as a potential for that. And so as the council continues to think about the downtown urban renewal dollars in those projects, Kesey can be a part of that conversation, and funding for that could come from that source.
Opening the walls would make it much more usable.
Counselor, we actually do, on page 113 of the CIP, park blocks and downtown open space improvements, that does potentially include funding that John referenced for Kesey Square.
I haven't read every word of this. I'll do that tonight when I go home.
Sure you haven't?
Thank you.
For the movie.
Yeah.
Thank you very much this is a really good document that I really appreciated how it's laid out, having the page for each project and then summaries by section and full summaries at the front, really easy to go through. One thing I was curious, you mentioned the GHG reduction opportunities with the 2 pools, and you said that you're exploring that. I was wondering if there's an opportunity to elaborate on what those explorations look like.
Absolutely. Actually, I should make a correction too. I think I might have said the construction's going to start in this calendar year, and it's probably going to be next calendar, so my apologies. But yeah, so we're looking at a similar system at Echo Hall. That's the one we're actively looking at the mechanical system right now. We're evaluating the possibility of a different type of heat pump unit, which is similar to what we installed at the property and forensics facilities, called an air mech unit. But as with that process, we'll look at existing equipment and the condition of it, and can we reuse some things rather than do a wholesale swap out. And so we'll look at the opportunities for that pool, but we're talking about it right now. It'll have a lot to do with how much aquatic space there is and so on, and so there'll be a variety of things we have to consider.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Semple.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I don't have to do this work. I really do appreciate all the work it must have been to get those numbers for the greenhouse gases. And thank you, Alan and Chris and Alicia, for asking my questions about what you were going to do with those numbers. So when it lists the amount per year, does that give me an idea of when you're planning to do the work? You know, it has 2,000 across.
Typically, if you see multiple years with funding, it's the last year of funding when construction will occur. If there's multiple years of funding, typically we'll start when the first year you see funding on design and planning, and then the last year would be when it would be constructed.
Okay, thank you.
Facilities, sometimes we'll set money aside for, just to kind of save until we can do a project as well.
I guess I'm thinking, how do I see what's prioritized first, to do first? So if I go and look at when we're spending the money, that would give me an idea of the order that we're doing it in. And then part of that order is looking at the greenhouse gas reductions as well as triple bottom line, right? And you've already thought about all of that. So good job. Thank you very much.
One thing I might just add to that is that we have some projects that are time dependent, so that helps move them around in the schedule. If we get a federal grant that needs to be, we need to use those funds to construct a project by a certain time, that will have an effect. Also, for instance, with the paving bond, we have a 5-year time period to do that work, so we can prioritize within the 5 years which street we're doing, but we need to know it's done within the 5 years.
Excellent. I'm very deadline driven.
My turn. Yes. So following up on Ty's question, actually, looking at the Echo Hollow pool renovation, I'm just going off page 17, and I might have missed it later on, so sorry if that's the case. But it looks like there's a 26% projected increase in greenhouse gas emissions, and I'm wondering if that projection is based on current usage levels, because I imagine an expansion would lead to higher usage levels. So I was wondering if that's factored in.
It is. The expansions, we're looking at some, like a rec pool. I mean, you can see that from the rendering. And so all things being equal, if we just use the same type of system, there's a GHG increase. If we implement a different type of system, like moving away from natural gas to electricity, we'll actually probably see a net decrease. And so, but that's part of the analysis. We're just starting to have that conversation now.
Awesome. And I have another question. Based on the transition to electricity, I'm really glad to hear that. You may all know in Salem they're working on a major piece of climate legislation. This is really timely and matches up with that, especially transitioning to electricity. So I only saw that transition mentioned in relation to the police services building. Did I miss it somewhere else that other facilities are transitioning towards electricity from natural gas?
So the strategy, I mentioned it in my presentation, but Solar Energy Group provided a report, and it had kind of 3 main strategies, like the cheapest option, the quickest, and so on. And we really are kind of grabbing from all of those different options and looking at every opportunity. So for any HVAC replacement project that comes up, we are evaluating the feasibility of moving away from natural gas to electricity. There's a lot of things we have to consider, like the service to the building, and $50,000 HVAC replacement might cost $150 because of the service. And so there's a lot of considerations we have to take into account when we do those projects, or how much time we have to plan. And so it's the police property and forensics building. That's actually the first one we've used that particular system in, and we're excited about it. And we'll continue to roll out more projects as we move forward. The R22 conversion, that's another example where, even though that's refrigerant, we'll be looking at those systems as well, because that actually requires a switch of a system, not just the product that's in it. And so we'll be looking at those as we go forward.
And I really appreciate that you have all of the answers. It's super helpful knowing that you do. Follow-up based on that, though, and I'm sorry to belabor this, but if the transition to electricity is based on HVAC replacements, aren't those replaced, every 15 years or every 30 years on average?
Yes. Okay. And so that is a concern. It's a cost that we need to account for. We know that a heat pump type unit compared to a gas boiler requires more maintenance, and replacement is likely more frequent. And so that's just something we'll have to plan for.
And my final thing is a lot easier. Just looking at the FCI, honestly, I'm just looking right now at this pie chart. I'm remembering from previous presentations in previous years, the numbers may have been a bit different. So I'm wondering if in future presentations we could have sort of a side-by-side with the previous year with an easy graphic. Just because as a new member of the Budget Committee, I don't have this sort of institutional memory. And it's really hard to recall those things.
I don't know if I can remember either, but
okay.
We would be happy to do that. In fact, this is this last fiscal year is really when we rolled that out, so there's an opportunity to really look at trend data going forward.
Awesome.
Okay, well, first I want to thank all of my colleagues for having such smart and interesting questions. Being at the end is helpful because you get them all answered for you before you get to them. And my questions were already answered, so I appreciate that. But I did want to echo that I really enjoyed the layout of this report. I felt it was very easy to understand. I think anyone who, even if this is the first time you ever opened a CIP document, you'd be able to understand and figure out what it's trying to tell you. So I appreciate all the hard work you guys did on this.
I also really found this, I often say this about documents that the staff has produced, how surprised I am at how interesting they are to read. This was really it was a really good read, so I thought it was really well done. I do have a question, kind of following up on Emily's questions about, priorities and what's coming first, because I am thinking about 2021 and what we want to be ready for, and so I wonder if you would just weigh in on that a little bit in terms of some of these projects, which ones you see maybe coming online sooner with that deadline in mind.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is another one of the factors that helped us prioritize work, especially in transportation. So there are a few federally funded projects that we hope to have constructed prior to the World Track and Field event. One is the 8th Avenue Complete Streets and Streetscape project, which is kind of reimagining 8th Avenue as a great street between Willamette Street and Mill, which is basically before you go up on the viaduct on the Ferry Street Bridge. That'll also look at two-waying that segment of the street. So we're going to be starting a public process on that shortly to get input on what it should look like and what it should be. We also have one called the Downtown Active Transportation Network project between Amazon Path and the river. And that is a project where we had started some public outreach, kind of, heard the community want to engage in a different way. So we're going to kind of restart that public engagement process here shortly as well. And one of the things we hope to do with those two processes is actually link them together, because that corridor, which is Pearl and High, intersects with 8th. And, there are going to be folks that are interested in both, and we want to make sure they know how they relate. We also have they shared the South Bank Path Rehabilitation Project, which is on the University of Oregon property. It's another federally funded project, and our hope is to get that built as well before the World Track and Field Trials. With all of the federally funded projects, it's kind of like threading a needle. It's hard to even really get the approval to begin. So for 2 of the 3 of those, we're waiting for the state to sign the agreement to let us start work. And then if there is, public engagement on those, then, it definitely makes it timeline tight, but that is our desire to get those done.
Thank you.
John?
Thank you. Good document. I like everything that you have here. I agree with what Chris was saying, that I think you've done a great job of balancing priorities, focusing on maintaining what we have, and seeing that to be a priority. With that being said, being a facility manager person myself, I also know that budgets and projects that you choose can kind of expand and contract somewhat with the funds which are available. And while I support this, I would support what Mike brought up, that I think and this isn't really this group, that's a council, policy decision, but the funds which are given to this, that there is a direct correlation between increasing system development charges and stuff like that, which then affect affordable housing and, how much it costs, to, build low-income homes if your systems development charges, which go to pay for these things, are so enormous. So I would support Mike in saying that I think you need to be cognizant of the effect that increasing, your revenue to pay for this does have some detrimental effects. And while I support everything that you have in here, globally in the priorities that you've placed upon certain things, I would encourage council to not forget that the revenue source is limited and has consequences that show up in other ways that aren't necessarily quite as pretty. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks again. So now we'll begin to open up the queue if there's any further questions for follow-up. Alan?
We're going around, or
It was first in, so were you raising your hand? I think you were acknowledging him, and I was acknowledging.
Alan's first, he was first in, or I just was asking the same. Are you just going to go around again, or are you just going to do it by?
We'll just by exception.
Okay.
So Alan?
One comment, one question. In the CIP, there was a comment about the use of solar and it being expensive. In the last several years, the cost of solar has plummeted. It's gone from, in the last 5 years, gone from $5 a watt to less than $1 a watt. So the analysis that you may have been relying on is no longer valid, and because of the cost drop. And so I encourage you to go back and look at that, because projects that were just a couple of years ago that were not very effective, cost-effective, are now really cost-effective. In fact, all of the new generation of big projects on the utility scale are all solar projects. So the cheapest projects in the world are now all solar projects. And so I'd encourage you to look at that, get new analysis, as well as the opportunity to use what's called a PPA, power purchase agreement, where you don't have to lay out any capital and you get the solar project. And those tend to make the projects a little bit more expensive, but the lack of capital need makes it maybe more effective for a municipality to do it. Following on Ryan's comment on, you can go back to slide 51, the buildings and facilities, the FCI project. One of the things I look at over the years, and I can't remember it, and this is my 22nd budget. This graph is always very important to me. And I always try to think about where we were last year, and I always have a struggle with that because we don't have that data. What would be really helpful is a trend line of that, maybe in a bar chart that shows the green, yellow, orange, yellow, red bars in each year, so we can track over time. The point of that is, are we getting better? Is the green getting smaller or bigger? And if it's getting smaller, we're in trouble and we're not paying enough attention to capital, or if it's getting bigger, then we're doing a good job. Or if it's staying the same, that's adequate. But the goal is to make that green part of the pie get bigger. So if we could get me a time series graph over that, that would be really helpful. I don't know how far back that data goes.
It's we about 2 years ago we went through and did an update, and so the information is. We've had that system for probably 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer. But the last couple of years ago, the information is a lot more accurate, and so we'll have some trend data. I actually like this a lot better than the bar chart that talks about the investment rate, because this is more real-time data that you can look at and say, where are we at? And so we can definitely take a look at that going forward. So
yeah, I think that the tracking the green part, the good FCI is the important part, and then country to that is the very poor. There's a lot more getting into the very poor category, then we're in trouble.
Yeah,
those are things that tend to be really expensive.
Yeah, and the very poor might be a facility that that we know is going to go away. And so it's just, like a structure somewhere or something like that we aren't as concerned about. So that's a little bit deceiving. It's probably really the green and the yellow that's what we should pay attention to.
You mean like Old City Hall? Oh.
Yeah.
Too soon?
That's not in a poor condition anymore.
The other thing I should mention too, we'll find out really soon the cost of solar because all three of our bond projects, there's a 1% requirement. And so we will be utilizing solar on all those projects. So we'll see really soon.
Right.
Anyone else?
First, I would second the request for some sort of time series with the preservation status, because I think that is one of the things I'm looking at is, are we continuing to maintain or are we falling behind on that maintenance? Because I know there was a period where we were much further behind on the maintenance, particularly for the roads. And so thanks everyone for voting for the pavement preservation. And then I think the other thing I had is kind of, I don't expect to be able to answer this right away, but a sense of how much of our infrastructure is at capacity and how much of it is going to need to be expanded as we continue to grow. Because I know that there's been areas in the budget where we've grown and we haven't kept up with that growth. I think public safety is a place where that's really been discussed a lot lately. And I think that what we're seeing is that we're growing and our infrastructure isn't keeping up with that growth, being able to identify like when that's starting to happen and think about, do we need to expand our infrastructure more? Do we need to figure out ways to use our infrastructure more efficiently? Would be helpful, because I do think that is something that I get very worried about, is that we have built a lot of things that we need to maintain. And what does that look like in 10 years and 20 years and 30 years? And are we going to be able to continue to do that through the next economic downturn, through those various places? Like, have we built a system that's going to continue? Yeah.
Parking's a good example. So if I could just respond to that a little bit. And when we update our system master plans, that's a place where you can typically look at that analysis of what the capacity is and then what the capacity need is. So those master plans inform the CIP from the perspective of what we need to build or how we need to invest to use our systems more smartly. I think some of the projects you will see, there's also associated yearly maintenance cost that is put in there. We don't have that uniformly in the CIP, but that's something we're also continuing to develop.
And is that true for all of the different types of projects we're looking at? Because I noticed, for example, the stormwater management sewers ones from like 92. So is there a more updated version of that we're using now?
So we actually have been going through an update, and we have the draft final plan. It's almost ready to be adopted, and part of redoing that plan was doing that system model to help us figure out what the needs were. We just did our transportation system plan, our Parks and Rec plan, our updated. Stormwater is something that is on our horizon to do as well. So we're trying to make sure that we're getting all our plans updated and relating to Envision Eugene, which is setting the vision for how we're growing.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for, this was a really, I had a good time reading it.
Thank you. You're pointing at me, so I guess it is my turn, right? All right. One of, I think, the smartest infrastructure projects we've done in the last many years was to put ultra-high-speed fiber in the downtown core. I was hoping that was a phase project. That was phase one. And that phase two would involve us extending beyond our downtown core with that specifically, and most obviously to an intermediary position, certainly to schools. Where would that live on the CIP? Is that public buildings and facilities, if such a project were planned to do? Where would it live?
I don't think it's in public buildings or facilities, so I'll say that.
We can get back to you. Right now is PDD is actually managing that particular project, and there are some pieces in which schools are connected through that. And so we probably just need, can you answer some of that right now, or?
The Denny man. Sorry to ask all the hard questions tonight, guys, but it's my nature, so.
I think the good news is we've pretty much finished out phase 1, and it's been successful.
Good job, by the way.
I think there is another phase 1A maybe that kind of takes us to the riverfront.
Good.
And we haven't done all of that work yet. And then phase 2 really is how do we think about it, bringing it out to the rest of the city, which gets more complicated just because, you have overhead utilities and underground utilities. And so it's a big project. It's a big undertaking, and we're not planning for it yet, but I understand there's a lot of interest community-wide in bringing it out citywide, so.
I want to bring it front and center. My question is, where should it live in our capital and infrastructure planning? Because excuse me, last year before, we didn't read anything about greenhouse gases in the CIP. Now we do. That's awesome. So where will we read about this next year?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to come back to you where it would be best to be read from. So I don't know the answer to that. Is that what? I'm trying to get a sense of.
Unfortunate answer, but I accept that it is your answer.
It doesn't sit in here, and I'm not sure where it necessarily fits under which category. So I guess we're going to need to come back and talk about that.
I'm gonna at least ask you this question, John. If it's a hypothetical. So if I were convinced that votes were there to do so, and I was going to cut 2.1 out of transportation projects so that we could take our SDCs back to last year's level, would you prefer that I make up the motions myself, or would you prefer to be able to recommend them?
We always prefer that we help councilors drafting their motions, and so we'd be happy to help you or any other councilor draft a particular motion on what you would like to present to the council. So we'd be happy
You'd prefer to recommend them.
We'd prefer to help draft the motion that you would like to present to the council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Yeah, we're in a place to be entertaining motions to either recommend approval as presented by city staff or with amendments.
I recommend approval as presented by city staff.
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your hand and leave it high. The motion passes.
Did you count the votes?
And we have Councilor Clark with a nay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, let's take a 10-minute break. Be back in. presentation will be the financial condition update, followed by a discussion. Please join me in welcoming city staff. Twyla.
Good evening. Oops, get this a little closer. So my name is Twyla Miller. I'm the finance director with the city, and I'm here tonight to give a financial condition update along with the city manager. So some of you may have heard iterations of this many times over the years, but we thought we'd provide a high-level update today. We have new members on our committee. Just give a brief overview today, and you'll get a much more comprehensive update when the city manager presents his proposed budget on April 24th. So the forecast you're going to see today really is still in progress. Staff are still working, updating assumptions, and will be finalized, and you will see it in April. Okay, so generally, when we talk about the forecast or the financial condition of the city, we're talking about the general fund. The city's budget is reported as organized into about 30 reporting funds, and they fit into one of the broad categories you see here on the screen. The fund types shown in the blue boxes are those funds used to account for revenue sources where there are either legal restrictions on the funds or to account for operations funded by users of the service through user fees or charges. The general fund is used to account for all the other financial resources except for those required to be accounted for in one of those other funds. So this graphic represents the FY19 adopted budget. As you can see, the general fund represents about 1/3 of the total budget for the city. It's the largest of all city funds, and it consists of the main subfund, the cultural services subfund, and the equipment replacement subfund. But tonight, when I'm talking about the general fund, I'll be talking about the main subfund of the city, and that really represents the discretionary resources for the city. So let's talk a little bit about the forecast and why we forecast. The city prepares a 6-year financial forecast for the general fund. This is a planning tool that projects our financial condition based upon what we know at a point in time. The forecast helps us make a projection about how much the city will spend and receive over the next 6 years based on what we know today. And as we always say, as we look out over the forecast period, the farther out we look, the more uncertainty there is in the assumptions that we use. So staff and the executive team use the forecast to understand the long-term impact of the decisions we make today, and also how potential choices that we might make will impact the organization's fiscal health as we look out to the future. So we update the forecast in the fall at the beginning of budget preparation, and then again in the spring when the city manager prepares and presents his proposed budget. But staff are always monitoring all of those variables as we go along throughout the year. That way we can make course adjustments if we need to in a timely manner. And then while there are hundreds and hundreds of variables that impact the forecast, swings in key variables such as property taxes and inflation can really have a wider swing and a greater impact on our fiscal health. And then we also use the forecast to monitor 2 important financial goals. The first is, are we living within our means, or are revenues greater than or equal to expenditures over the forecast period? And then the second is, do we have an adequate savings account? So in the general fund, our savings account is called the Reserve for Revenue Shortfall, and the target for this reserve is 8% of expenditures, which equates to about $14 million on average annually over the forecast period. Right, there we go. So what's changed between last spring when we had the adopted budget forecast and now? As we know, we operate in a very dynamic environment, and there are many variables, as I talked about, that change. But I'll talk about a few of the key changes between last spring and now. One of the first is property taxes as we look at revenues. Property taxes are the largest revenue source in the general fund, and this fall we received good news from the assessor. We learned that our taxable property value for FY19 had grown at a faster rate than we had predicted in our forecast last spring. That, along with a slightly increased collection rate, is good news for revenues into the general fund. In FY19, we'll realize $800,000 more in revenue, which grows to about $1 million annually by the end of the forecast period over what was forecast last spring. And next, we'll talk about marijuana taxes. We now have 1 year of experience with marijuana tax revenues, and we've increased our our projections based on that experience. You may remember when we've talked before, we've budgeted very conservatively due to our lack of experience with this revenue source. So for the local marijuana tax, we've increased projections by an additional $675,000 in FY19 and an additional $825,000 in FY20. For the state marijuana tax, we've increased our current year projections by $300,000 in the current year and $350,000 in FY20. And as a reminder, local marijuana taxes are earmarked for community justice, park safety and security, and human services funding. We will continue to monitor our collections as we receive quarterly collections from the state, and we'll revise our estimates as needed as we go along. Next, let's talk about GEMT. So GEMT is Ground Emergency Medical Transport. This is a voluntary program that makes supplemental payments to eligible providers who furnish qualifying emergency ambulance services to Medicaid clients. After new state legislation, GEMT was expected to begin in FY18, although the rules around the program have not been finalized and are still under review at the state level. Because of that, we've reduced the amount of GEMT revenue we were projecting from $925,000 to $400,000, and we've also pushed revenue, our expectations about when we'll receive the revenue out from FY20 to those revenues starting in FY21. And then finally, on the revenue side, we'll talk about interest earnings. Finally, after a long decade of very low interest rates, interest earnings on our cash balances are projected to be higher. The budgeted interest rate for FY19 is 1.5%, climbing to 2.5% in FY20. So this is projected to increase general fund revenues by about $270,000 in FY19 and about $530,000 in FY20. So that's good news. And then if we look to the expenditure side, there's a few changes there as well. FY20 budget strategies, the city manager will talk about more about FY20 budget in just a moment, and you'll hear much more detail in April when we come back. But there are plans to incorporate some one-time strategic investments, as well as some savings on an ongoing basis as we look to manage uncertainty. The other thing I'd like to note is the Community Safety Initiative. You're probably aware of the ongoing conversations at Council about community safety funding. In December, on Supplemental Budget 1, the Council appropriated $8.6 million in bridge funding. It's a one-time funding towards the Community Safety Initiative. This one-time funding was put in place for these services as a long-term revenue source is considered. And I'll talk a little bit more about the bridge funding in just a moment. And then finally, we'll talk just quickly about PERS rates. As you know, we adjust PERS rates every 2 years. In the even years, our most recent actuarial rates received last fall were slightly lower in FY20 and 21 than we'd previously projected, but the out years are slightly higher. So there's a slight savings in the first couple of years of the forecast, but you'll see a slight higher expenses in the out years. So when we roll all of those things into our forecast, if you look to compare last spring to now, the blue line is the FY19 adopted budget, and the current forecast with those changes, including the FY20 budget strategies, is the green dotted line that you'll see there. On the left, you can see that we're in a better position in FY20 and 21 than we were anticipating last fiscal year. However, you can still see we still have a gap starting in FY22. However, you'll see if you look to the tail end of the forecast, we're coming up into a surplus position again. This is due to implementing some ongoing savings that you'll learn more about later this spring. And then the slide to the right shows our savings account or our reserve for revenue shortfall. The reserve is our financial cushion, which is a key part of our financial management here at the city. Having an adequate reserve helps us weather financial storms and unexpected events, and lets us take the time to develop thoughtful and strategic responses as things unfold, rather than having to immediately cut services. During the time of budget adoption, you can see the blue line. We were projecting to drop below the target in the out years of the forecast. The current forecast assumes ongoing savings to bring the general fund back into balance, which will help hold the city's savings above our target level throughout the forecast period. Maintaining reserves in good economic times is the key to weathering recessionary pressures during downturns. So some of you have seen this slide before. I did want to revisit the bridge funding from the community safety. So as I mentioned before, City Council did appropriate one-time dollars of $8.6 million in December on Supplemental Budget 1. Some of this funding was from the Reserve for Revenue Shortfall and also from Marginal Beginning Working Capital. The bridge focuses on efforts on prevention, response, and resolution, as you can see in the boxes on the top of the slide. And the boxes below are the progress that has happened in the last 2 months since supplemental budget was adopted. I'm not going to go through all of the things on the slide, but I'll just highlight a couple. In the prevent category, we've contracted with 15th Night through March of 2020, which includes implementation of rapid access network technology specifically developed to connect homeless youth to services and service providers in real time. And we've also funded the purchase of 3 additional Conestoga huts for the Nightingale Hosted Shelters site on Hilliard. Under the respond category, EPD has selected a supervisor for the street crimes unit and is starting to build that team towards an estimated March of 2019 rollout, which is exciting. And we've also had great success with our basic life support program, which creates capacity in our emergency response services by responding to low acuity calls. We will be hiring 10 additional BLS techs this month in February. And then finally, under the resolve category, the city prosecutor is hiring another attorney and is able to stabilize funding for 2 current attorneys, and jail service funding has gone toward our contracted beds and allows us to conduct hearings at the jail daily. So those are just a few of the things that's happening. This is a really exciting initiative, and lots of progress is starting to be made. And finally, I'll touch really quickly. We always want to flag things that we're looking at as we look to the future. So these are some of the areas we're monitoring. So we've talked about the FCC before. So this is the Federal Communications Commission. They have released a notice of proposed rulemaking that, if enacted, would limit the city's ability to charge telecom companies for the use of the right-of-way. There is no timeline surrounding the rule, and the City of Eugene has submitted a comment in opposition to the rule. However, there could be action that could completely preempt local government's authority to charge right-of-way use fees that are not cost-based. So our right-of-way use fees at the city are cost-based, are not cost-based. They're based on gross revenues, so 7% of a provider's gross revenues. If such an action were taken, it could have an impact on the general fund of $2 to $4 million, depending on how the action was implemented. So we've talked about this. We flagged this for you all last spring. We're still monitoring the situation. Again, we don't have definitive information that would cause us to take action at this time, but it's something that staff's continuing to monitor. Deferred maintenance, of course, is another area we talk about. You've just heard in the CIP presentation, deferred maintenance remains an ongoing challenge and a potential risk for the general fund. The average age of general fund buildings is greater than 30 years, and almost 25% of the buildings are 40 years or older. Legislatures in session, so state legislation is something we're currently watching, of course. There are a number of bills that the staff are monitoring that could impact the city, including bills related to property taxes, PERS, of course, 911, and a variety of other issues. And then finally, future PERS rates and GEMT. So I've talked a little bit there. I do want to reiterate, We do watch our PERS rates. We get information from the actuary. You know, there are things like the investment market and things that will impact return. And so those are things that are beyond our control, but something certainly we monitor and look at. And we do have increases in the forecast in the even years in 2022 and again in 24. As we get more information from the actuary each fall, we will update those rates accordingly. And then GEMT, of course, there's just uncertainty as to when the timing will take place for as actual receiving that revenue and, again, how much that might be in the future. So those are some of the areas that staff are monitoring as we look forward. And with that, I will turn things over to the city manager.
Thank you, Twyla.
GEMT stand for again?
Pardon?
GEMT stand for again?
Ground Emergency Medical Transport.
Oh.
I feel better.
I'd just like to take a step back and remind us of the bigger picture and how we got to where we are today. And we've achieved stability through a guiding philosophy that we've maintained really for the last 10 or 11 years, sound budgeting principles, and a focus on service enhancements that are within our means. And our guiding philosophy relies on our commitments to community service, financial stewardship, and employee satisfaction. And you might remember we've always talked about how to keep those in balance as we present and put together our budgets. And then budget principles like using a 6-year forecast, Twyla just went through that for us, allows us to be very proactive rather than reactive. It often gives us time to respond to changes in our financial status. We also rely on ongoing revenues to support ongoing expenditures, which also means we only use one-time money for one-time expenditures. We maintain adequate reserves, and then we keep our budget steady by living within our means. As a result of this work, we have been in a stable position, and we've been able to maintain a sufficient reserve level to insulate our service system from future volatility. This allows us to be able to make strategic investments in things that matter to the community, like our community safety system. The principles that have allowed for strategic investments will also require some changes to realize savings on an ongoing basis as well, and which has provided more structural balance to the general fund over time. And many of you know through the recession and subsequent to the recession, we made significant structural changes to the budget, which have allowed us to maintain those services and continue the strategic investments. As part of the FY20 budget proposal that you'll see in April, you'll see proposed strategic one-time investments in several areas. And just to name a few, such things as downtown wayfinding, which we've been talking about for the last couple of years. We'll be proposing putting some one-time money to move that project forward. Also, recognizing how vulnerable places are in our community for wildfire, we'll be proposing dollars for fuels reduction in the wildland urban interface areas and on the city's edge, and continuing our successful equity and contracting program, just to name a few of those strategic investments that you'll be seeing as we present our full budget in April. These type of proposals build on the investments made over the last several years and help address high priorities for the community and those that have been identified by the City Council. At that time in April, we'll share additional financial stability measures which allow us to return to a surplus by the end of the forecast period, as you saw in the forecast information presented by Twyla. One of the things we're very proud of is we've continued to maintain a AA1 rating through Moody's Investor Services. And as a way of comparison, there's very few communities of our size that have universities that have anything higher than a AA1. There's a couple that have more community wealth than we do. But we rank very high of communities our size with universities in a bond rating, and a AA1 is about the highest we're able to achieve based on our demographics. And the trust that we've built through the budget process is recognized with the recent library levy, latest street bond, and parks and recreation bonds. And the credit markets recognize this as we are a good investment for the market. A high credit rating is effectively a vote of confidence from the investment community that we are good stewards of resources and are a very, very low risk borrower. A higher credit rating equates to lower borrowing costs for the city, saving taxpayer resources over the longer term. And so we recently issued nearly $30 million in GO debt as part of the Parks and Recreation bond approved last year. And we were able to borrow these funds at a very low interest rate after receiving an updated credit rating that recognizes the city's strong financial profile, including healthy reserve levels, ample liquidity, and a low debt burden and strong financial management. And throughout the years, the Budget Committee and the Council have played a key role in us maintaining that kind of financial footing.
Is that a Moody's rater in the picture?
Yes. Everybody feels younger to me all the time, and that's a good example of that. So just next year, as we think about the FY20 budget this spring, I'll be recommending a degree of caution for many of the reasons that Twyla already covered. There will be some opportunities to realize savings without disrupting services to the community as part of the budget strategies that we'll be presenting. And our reserves that put us in a good place to borrow cheaply and be thoughtful about our spending choices. The FY20 budget will carry this approach to our reserves going forward as we continue to benefit from a strong local economy that has regained its footing. The changes that Council approved in December in regards to community safety are substantial, and the FY20 budget will be a bridge year as we adjust to this new level of service that our community deserves as the Council identifies an ongoing funding source for these changes. The FY20 budget will account for these dynamics and include investments that complement all the work we've been doing throughout the year to help Eugene thrive. And the good news is while we will maintain a cautious outlook, there will be no gaps to address in this general fund this year. For those of you that have spent the last 10 years as we went through the recession and through getting to a stable budget, you'll know that that's always good news when we aren't trying to figure out how to fill a gap in the general fund. And so in short, in the past 10 years together, we've journeyed through recession to stability and now are focusing on sustainability. And we are fiscally sound.
One more slide here. And so this is just talking about the next steps. So in April, on April 24th, the city manager will present the proposed budget. You should get your document about 2 weeks prior, so you have plenty of time to take a look and look through it. And then May, we'll have budget committee deliberations with council adopting the budget in June. And with that, we'll open it up for any questions or comments.
Thank you. Very informative. Want to start to the left here, John? Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I'll pass.
I do have one. So in watching the January 22nd joint meeting between the City Council and the County Commission about the Navigation Center or public shelters, that conversation will continue in May, was it? So related to that, another thing that I'm hearing when I talk to people out in the community over and over is they're having difficulty breaking down which of our many services impact unhoused people. So, and I'm not sure how monumental this task would be, but in a document like this budget document, having some way of explicitly spelling that out, I think would be really appreciated by the community. And also, if the conversation about this navigation center progresses, I think it would be useful in matching up with that because it would expand those services by quite a bit, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of documents that we can ensure that you have that would be related to this. So for example, I'm thinking of the one that Reagan put together on just sort of all the homeless services that we provide, which gives a nice portfolio, and then what we can do is sort of attach financial figures to that. And so there's some documents that I think we can provide that can be really helpful in that.
That would be magical. And also making that accessible on the Open Budget website, I forgot to mention. I think that's a good thing too.
Make that accessible. You bet.
Thank you. That was a great question. I'm looking forward to April.
I did have a question. You talked about all the different sources of uncertainty and how much there's, and then on the forecast we have just a line. I was wondering if you could give us an idea of how big the error bars on that forecast line are, given all the uncertainty we have?
Oh, the range of uncertainty?
Do you have a quantification of how uncertain?
No, it depends on, there are many iterations and of what those outcomes could possibly be. So I don't necessarily have, and we do from time to time, and sometimes even with budget committee, if we're looking at certain indicators, we will bring in some what ifs and show you the potential range. So depending on what we're looking at, but I don't have something that kind of quantifies all of those things that I was talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. No questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, this is a follow-up on Ryan. When we had the what's changed slide, and you had mentioned the community safety initiative, I think there's also a conversation around what will be the implementation of the TAC report, which won't just be a city responsibility, it will be done in partnership, but it, I think, conceivably will represent a conversation about revenue sources. So it may not necessarily only be a general fund conversation. I think there'll be elements there, but I think it will be a broader conversation that we may not have all the information yet when we put this budget together. So it's a stay tuned, and as we know, we'll add.
Could you go to slide 6? The forecast.
Yep.
That's the one I was going to ask about, too.
Hold on, we're getting there.
So I love graphs like that, especially when they go up. So you may have said it, I guess I just didn't capture it. What is the difference between the adopted budget and the current forecast?
That's what I was going to ask. Nothing here?
So
Making it so much more rosy.
So a number of things. So we have increased revenues from like property tax revenues, marijuana tax revenues are up. So it's mostly good news when revenues are going up generally. This also incorporates the FY20 budget strategies that the city manager will be bringing back in April. And part of those strategies, in addition to the investments, are some ongoing stability options which help us get to a positive position by the end of the forecast period.
That have not yet been implemented or stay tuned. So they're
Player to be named
Right,
later.
they'd be a part of the FY20 budget recommendations, the implementation of those.
But it assumes implementation.
couple of years.
No, we would be implementing them in FY20, and so they would have immediate effect in FY20.
Right, correct.
Yeah, so that makes,
Without those strategies, the green line would be lower. We wouldn't be in a surplus position by the end of the forecast period.
right. But so we still have the problem of FY22 deficit of $2 million.
Right, and 22 and 24 are PERS rate years.
Increases.
And so that's what we've seen throughout for the last at least 10 years I've been here. You always have these 2-year dips, and so we're always sort of correcting back up from those.
Right. And just a comment for the folks new to the budget. One of the hallmarks and one of the excellent things that John and his team have done over the years is create this reserve big enough to handle downturns in the economy. And while some declared bankruptcy, others were slashing police, things like that, we rode through the recession. We made a hell of a lot of changes. We made $30 million worth of changes. Let's not forget that. But we were able to move through that rather smoothly, which helps with our bond rating. Do we have an estimate of what the potential FCC action on right-of-ways would be if they shifted if they made us shift from 7% of revenue to a cost-based? How many millions of dollars would that be per year?
2?
We have a ballpark?
I don't know that we've costed that out. Like, are you saying if we switch to a cost-based system, what the differential would be?
Right, if they said you can no longer do percent of revenue, you have to do cost-based,
We haven't costed that piece out.
would that require a cost of service study, which is no small task? To be able to estimate that?
Yeah, I think what we would anticipate is even doing that would impact us by a couple of $1 million. And so part of our strategy in finding some current savings that don't impact the services that help with the graphs is to stabilize our current budget as much as possible. So if there's an impact from the FCC ruling that is substantial, we have the financial stability to sort of work through that over a couple of years if we need to, as opposed to needing to make immediate changes. And so that's part of our strategy that you see in these two graphs that are coming out of that.
Graph 3, where it shows the full adopted budget, $722 million, that includes interfund transfers, correct?
Yes.
Do we know how much the interfund transfers are? 'Cause
Off the top of my head, I'm
$200
looking
million.
over.
150 million?
I do not know the answer off the top of my head, I'm sorry, but we can find out.
Get that for us?
We can find that out for you, sure.
That's the actual budget. Interfund transfers means it's just money going from department to central services to pay for things like accounting stuff. That's just an internal number. It's not an actual overall number. So 722, I've given up long ago trying to explain to people why that's not the right number, but that's it. Thanks.
I feel like it's probably a lot nicer to be a budget committee member now than it was 10 years ago. So thank you for this and the stability and sort of all of this. I do want to, I watch the city council meetings and I hear lots of talk about lots of things that are going to cost a lot of money. The TAC report and the services for people who are unhoused. Obviously the housing conversation is going on, the public safety conversation is going on, and then even the climate recovery ordinance is going to require continued investment, Vision Zero, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we hear a lot about things that we want to spend money on, and when we hear about how we're going to pay for those, it tends to be very focused on the particular item that we want to spend the money on. And I feel like in some cases it's, public safety was a concern, we were patching, and we didn't get that big picture discussion of how are we going to pay for this in the long term sustainably until we were getting, lots of big concerns. And so I think one of the things I would like to hear more about is overall the sustainability and the structure of our revenue sources, what our options are, what are we looking at there, and how we can help make sure that we're able to continue to live within our means as our needs change, as our city changes, and as the economy is changing in the future. Because I think being able to live within our means is a very good thing to do. But I also think that it's had some, Councilor Surratt mentioned when they were talking about the public safety that we still haven't, we've gotten bigger as a city and we still haven't gotten back up to where we were public safety wise, before the recession.
Yeah, I think your point's well taken, because there has been a lot of work on working through the recession, stabilizing, and we're absolutely in that, how do we sustain sort of into the longer term. I think there is some good news. I think, for example, the recent parks levy and bond is a good example of providing more stability into something like that. The library levy was more sustainable as well. The current community safety conversation, nice thing about that is it's, as you know, it's not just police, it's actually a whole system. And part of the good news of that is that some of those expenses or proposed uses in the human services, particularly as the TAC report comes on, some of those can get repurposed in the TAC report. So you're actually not having to stack dollars. You can actually repurpose. And in some ways, I think that could also be real positive. But I think you're exactly right that we're sort of moving down to how do we sustain all of these kinds of things as we move forward.
Thank you. It occurred to me recently that I wanted to make a more general comment about budgeting in the budget committee, that there are a number of conversations we have at council that affect the decisions we make in budget committee, that some of the citizen budget committee members don't always get to have at least input on. And as a counselor, I'd like to expand their role a little bit more with some of those. For example, as I mentioned earlier, it just happened to be what reminded me of it. We all decided to increase SDC charges by 50%, which affects the CIP and how much money we're spending and everything else. But this group tends to focus more on the spending of money than the raising of money, and I think they ought to have a role in that too, just at least an advisory one to us. Number two, to take up where Alan dropped off there, because I agree with him, that's a 90-degree turn there in the out years in 24 there. That's a pretty steep turn. Is there any kind of hints you want to give us before the presentation about why we can take a 90-degree turn into surplus?
You can probably address it better than I, so.
Page 6.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the surplus,
Right.
In 24, we take a 90-degree turn, man. That's a serious deal right there.
Right, so that's a combination of several things. So that's a combination of stability and revenue sources over time and the stability measures that'll be implemented as part of the proposal. So
I was just going to say, it sounds like new revenues are being planned for. It doesn't
No.
sound like a accounting adjustment.
Revenues that are being planned for in this. So part of what happens is, it's like the GEMT, right? So that gets pushed out from, what'd you say, 20 to 22 or whatever?
21.
So part of what you start to capture is some of those revenue sources that got pushed out because they're not available in 20 as we thought they would be. And so that's part of how you see that changes in the out years. I think you see, every 2 years, what happens is the PERS rate takes the dip, and then you sort of correct for that, and then you get another dip. And so that's why you see some of those 90-degree turns. Part of that is the PERS rate sort of moving through the system as well.
There's also another thing that we did quite a bit of years and years ago. We put a lot of MUPTs out there for the student housing that got built around campus. They're all going away now, and they're all having to pay the taxes. And so I'd be really interested to see any kind of report that could show us the new revenue streams on expiring MUPTs, especially around the university, to show us the significance between previous tax levels of a couple of grand for the ugly old house and the 100 to 200 to 300,000 we're now getting, or whatever the number is, for the new unit that's been built. I'd really like to be able to talk intelligently about how smart those investments were now. Lastly, I will say that I want to know, when we build these long-term projections, are we swallowing and assuming the state's PERS return levels as a part of our planning? So like the 7.5 that turns into 0.7. I mean, do we assume their revenue forecasts and their earnings forecasts?
We do. So when we are modeling, we do use information that we receive from the PERS board and the actuary. And so currently they're assuming a 7.2 rate of return. As we know, the market hasn't done very well this year, and the actual return is much lower, which will be incorporated into the next valuation. So that is why every fall, when we get new information from the actuary, we're constantly adjusting our rates, and we're constantly looking at the information and projections we're getting from the PERS board. It's backwards looking, right? Because our rates in the future incorporate, the previous year's actual returns. So yes, we are following those, but they get trued up, and at each year we're adjusting the forecast.
When their projections are so bad, so long, at what point is it wiser for us to create our own projections?
What would we project on? If I had that crystal ball,
I'm not the professional.
Right?
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it would be really hard because we don't have the actuary staff to actually do that. And so it's just like with eWebs, they give us their rate projections, which we build into our forecast, and not trying to second guess their model on that. That's what's really hard. And so.
Plus, it always over-delivers, which is nice.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
And to be fair, I do ask our budget folks to be conservative but reasonable, because we don't want to overcorrect, because that's not helpful either. At the same time, we don't want to have a picture that feels so optimistic that it's just unrealistic. And so for the last 10, 11 years, that's what we really have focused on, how to be conservative but reasonable in that.
Thanks. Councilor Zelenka.
Yeah, since we have this graph up, so that $5 million drop between 21 and 22 is because of partly PERS or all PERS?
Primarily PERS. So in the even years, when you see the drops, at this point, it's primarily related to PERS rate increases that we've incorporated into the forecast.
Yeah. And then, again, a smaller one and $750,000 in 24.
Correct.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question. If there was to be a recession, how quickly do we react? Do we have specific areas identified that we wouldn't fund? Or do we pull immediately from the reserve? And then conversely, when we have these increases, how quickly can we react? And do we have the areas identified that we would fund, or would we just add it to the reserve?
So the way we reacted to the previous recession, I think, would be indicative of how we would choose to react to any future sort of downturn. So what we did at that point, and for those that remember, it built pretty quickly. It went from $1 million to $12 million to $24 million to $30 million pretty quickly over a couple of years. And so it built really fast. So what we did immediately inside the organization, we sort of stopped spending as we can. And so what that means is obviously people still get paid, but it may mean that we don't execute this particular contract or some of those kinds of, so we sort of put a stopgap on that to stop to that. And then as we go into the budget session, we don't have sort of predetermined, we hit a recession and now we're going to eliminate, a certain service. What we did is we came back to the budget committee and ultimately the council and said, okay, here's what the line on the graph looks like. And so we need to fill a gap. And here's our proposal on how to fill that gap. And in that case, there were any numbers of ways to do that. We looked for efficiencies in the operation. We were able to find those. We did eliminate 100 FTE or so, and partly with only a couple that involuntarily chose to leave. So we managed that very hard. So we saved money on those side. And so we didn't have a predetermined package that goes away. Yeah. So if it's the same way this way, that's what we would do. We would slow up spending internally as we would come back to this body and the council. It would be that same approach of we still need to maintain services. We aren't interested in just laying off employees. We still want to try to live within our means, still want to invest strategically. Are there things that we can do? And then together, we end up sort of working through all of that and come up with those kinds of things. So that's the way it would be. If we have an unexpected bump, if it's one-time dollars, so for example, what you'll see in the budget this year is about $1.5 million one-time dollars that we would say we can fit within the current budget to try to fund some strategic investments. And so we'll have a recommendation on that based on conversations that have gone on through the year on any numbers of things. So wayfinding is one of those. I mentioned that earlier. So we'll propose some dollars in wayfinding because that's been a project that's been in the queue and it's ready to get sort of a next round of funding. We know from just fires that have gone on around, people have some concerns around fuels in the urban interface. So we'll propose putting some dollars into that so we can do some fuels reduction. And there'll be those kinds of things that are available. A couple years ago, there was a significant windfall as a Comcast settlement. And so those dollars actually dumped into the reserve. There was a conscious decision to dump those into the reserve. There was some of that spent, and part of it was the $1 million that went over to the shelter, and there was something else that came out of that. And then the rest of it got dumped into the reserves, and so that's all part of this, and eventually, all those get played out. So we don't have necessarily a predetermined list on either side that we just automatically kick in.
Also, you get to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what the Budget Committee does, is make the recommendation how to adjust to those.
Also did a big garage sale.
There's a big sale.
Always forget.
Any other questions, comments? None? Okay, that takes us to our next agenda item, and that's the election of officers. So I asked for nominations or indications signaling in the email a couple weeks ago, and we didn't have any positive responses there, so I'll entertain nominations. Councilor Clark and then Councilor Zelenka.
I'll nominate you.
I second.
That was easy, wasn't it?
All in favor?
Other
Yeah, you gotta ask if
there's any other nominations.
No one else gonna run for chair? Okay. All in favor?
You vote for yourself. It's a good
Any
sign.
opposed? Okay, vice chair.
I nominate John Jasper for vice chair.
Second?
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
That's efficient.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That's why we like gets us out an hour early.
Okay, our next steps, as we discussed, April 24th, 5:30 at the library, we'll have our budget meeting, and we'll have our documents about 2 weeks prior. Wanted to also announce that we have a few openings on the budget committee, and that we'll be accepting applications through the city website until March 10th. So if you know folks that are interested in volunteering their time, we do have some openings coming up. And then also want to mention that Josh Gove is stepping down from the committee. You saw that email. He's now on the LTD Board of Directors, and he played an instrumental role in the budget transparency tool, and also worked a lot, and I joined in one of the metrics and pieces of the service profiles, and then also played a role with Councilor Zelenka and the CRO and the CIP. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew his contributions, and if you get a chance, send him an email, tell him thank you for his service. Takes a special person to come up and volunteer their time in their evenings to help the community. Yes, Councilor.
Yeah, I'd like to see us make this a regular practice because we do it hit and miss. Anybody who serves on the budget committee should be appropriately thanked with a plaque or some manner of art, recognition of our sentiment for their public service. So I don't know whether that's something that can be administratively done or how the best way is to organize that, but I think that should be a permanent fixture of service on this committee, because there have been people who've served who didn't get recognized in any way, and I think we should.
We can just,
Dollar bill.
what's that?
We all sign a dollar bill and do it.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. We'd be happy to do that, and we can just take care of that. And so what would be appropriate, Josh was sort of just resigned the last couple days, but I think it would be appropriate the next time that this body meets could be the time to actually note that. And if there's anybody else in that situation that we should be doing, we should also do that at the same time.
Going from working with one yay to another yay.
Yeah.
Councilor
I
Taylor.
wonder if Mike, as a past budget committee member, wants to make it retroactive.
I never said that out loud. I didn't say that part
10
out
years,
loud.
I got nothing.
With Josh leaving, does that give us another opening for our applications? How do we replace him? I know you can't, but,
It'll be part of the normal process, and then they'll be appointed in July when they make.
So we'll just be hiring one more.
Yeah.
So it will be vacant through the process, through this budget process.
Really?
No, because we're doing commissions in April, I think.
They don't until July. right? Correct, July?
Really?
Exactly the same.
July.
Yeah.
So we'll be short.
Could throw them to the wolves and have them show up the next day for a budget committee meeting.
Dump them in.
Is there a way to accelerate that process so that that budget committee person maybe gets an
Seems like we
April
should.
kind of thing so that?
Maybe what we can do is we'll just send out a note to everybody sort of on what is the current process, but then also if there are opportunities to do something sooner, we can also include that. So rather than just trying to make it work,
through.
yeah, kind of on the fly, we'll send something out to the committee.
It might be
Good-
helpful.
Good to have someone on
Be good to
board.
be at full strength.
Realistically, it's a little challenging because, we have a week, we have a couple of weeks with not full, well, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
That, it's a little challenging, but we'll figure it out.
We'll send something out.
God, if they can calculate greenhouse gases, they could probably do this.
Hey, any other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, thank you for your time tonight. With that, we're adjourned.
That's why we make him chair.